Your tomato plant died again. You already know it did, because you watched it happen the same way it happened. Last summer, slow, yellow, curling at the edges. Like the leaves were trying to crawl away from the soil. You did everything the bag told you to do. You measured the fertilizer, you mixed it into the top 6 inches, you watered on schedule, and still, by August, you were standing in your backyard holding a plant that looked like it had given up on you personally. Meanwhile, the grocery store wants $9.9 for a single bell pepper, and the organic section has gotten so small, it feels like a joke someone forgot to finish telling. In my analysis of industrial-scale gardening, I've found that the soil under your feet is not underperforming. It is being starved on purpose. Here is what nobody in that garden center aisle is ever going to say. To your face, you have been handed the exact product that keeps your garden in a state of dependency. That bag of synthetic fertilizer you lugged home is not food for your garden. It is a chemical hit, a short, violent burst of nitrogen that forces a plant to push growth it cannot sustain while quietly destroying. The one thing underground that actually builds fertility for free. Every granule you scatter is dissolving the biological network your dirt desperately needs, only to be washed away with the next hard rain, leaving the ground more depleted than before you started. This is not some fringe theory. There is a pipe buried in the middle of my vegetable bed right now, unremarkable white PVC, a cheap plastic cap looking like a plumbing mistake. My neighbors think I have lost it, but in my records, I've documented how that simple tube does something no store-bought product on earth can replicate. It is generating the richest fertilizer known to agriculture, every single day at zero cost, delivered directly to the root zone of my plants while I sleep. No compost tumbling, no weekend labor. Think about what composting actually asks of you right now. You need a bin taking up a corner of your yard. You need to tolerate the smell every time you lift that lid. You need to sacrifice your Saturday mornings to turning and mixing and waiting, and after months of that, you still have to shovel the finished product into a wheelbarrow and haul it back to the beds where your plants have been starving the whole time. That is not a gardening method, that is a punishment loop, dressed up as self-sufficiency. Through my research into ancient agricultural practices, I found that the Aztecs never did any of that. Civilizations across Mesoamerica understood something so fundamental it barely needed explaining. Earthworms are the invisible architects beneath every productive inch of ground. They did not dig them up, they did not relocate them into plastic bins. They built entire food systems around letting organic matter decompose in place, underground. On the worm's schedule, not yours, Charles Darwin spent the final 4 decades of his life proving the same thing. With scientific rigor, not evolution worms. He called that final book one of the most important works he ever produced. And then, almost on cue, the whole idea got buried. After World War II, chemical plants that had been building bombs needed somewhere new to sell nitrogen. Agriculture was the answer. Overnight, the conversation shifted from biology to chemistry, from living systems to synthetic replacements, from soil that feeds itself to soil that needs you to keep buying. That is the trap, not your brown thumb, not your lack of experience. The entire framework you were handed was engineered to fail without a receipt attached. And the thing that actually works has been sitting 6 inches underground this whole time, waiting. So what exactly happens inside that pipe, and why did an entire industry need you to never find out? $16.5 for a 5.5-pound bag of worm poop. That is the price tag sitting on the shelf at your local garden center right now, wrapped in earth tone packaging, with words like premium and organic gold printed across the front. And most people walk right past it because 2 aisles over, there is a bag of synthetic fertilizer for $6.6. That promises the exact same thing: bigger tomatoes, greener leaves, faster growth. 3 numbers on the front of every bag: nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium, the holy trinity of modern gardening. The NPK ratio, you have seen it 1,000 times, and never once questioned what it actually means. For the thing happening beneath your feet, here is what it means. Those 3 elements get dissolved in water the moment you apply them. They flood the soil in a single chemical burst. And your plant responds the way any starving organism responds to a sugar rush. It spikes, the leaves green up, the stem stretches, and for about 10 days you feel like a genius. Then the next rain comes and washes every trace of it past the root zone and into the groundwater. Your plant crashes, the soil is left with nothing. Worse than nothing, actually, because that chemical flood just killed the organisms that were trying to feed your plant for free. This is the part nobody prints on the bag. Healthy soil is not dirt with nutrients mixed in. It is a living network, billions of bacteria, fungi, protozoa, and yes, earthworms, all operating in a web so intricate that scientists are still mapping it. Fungal threads called mycorrhizae attach directly to plant roots, extend outward through the soil like a second root system, sometimes stretching dozens of feet beyond what the plant could ever reach on its own. They trade. The plant sends sugars down to the fungi, and the fungi send back phosphorus, zinc, copper, and moisture from distances the roots could never access alone. That exchange has been running for roughly 400 million years. And a single application of synthetic fertilizer can shut it down in a weekend. The nitrogen salt in that $6.6 bag is toxic to mycorrhizal fungi at concentrations most home gardeners casually exceed. The fungal threads die back, the bacterial colonies shift. The soil food web collapses into a simplified, dependent state, where the only thing that can feed your plant is another bag from the same shelf. You are not gardening anymore. You are subscribing, season after season, bag after bag. The soil gets quieter, more compacted, more lifeless, and you get told the answer is a different product. A better blend, maybe some perlite, maybe a raised bed kit, with premium potting mix that costs more per cubic foot than the groceries you were trying to stop buying. Now go back to that white PVC pipe for a second. When earthworms feed inside that chamber and travel back out through your root zone, their castings do not just carry nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium. They carry all three in a slow-release, microbially active form wrapped in a mucus coating that feeds the exact fungal and bacterial communities synthetic fertilizer destroys. Every tunnel they dig opens an airway. Every casting they deposit is a microbial seed packet. They are not just fertilizing your soil, they are rebuilding the immune system that the fertilizer aisle quietly dismantled. That $33 bag on the shelf is not expensive because worm castings are rare. It is expensive because producing them at scale without the worms doing it in place is absurdly inefficient. The pipe skips the entire supply chain. No harvesting, no drying, no bagging, no shipping, just continuous biological output delivered exactly where it matters, at root depth, every single day, generated by creatures that work for banana peels and coffee grounds. In my study of subsoil communication, I've realized that underneath every handful of soil you have ever touched, there is a network older than every fertilizer brand on the planet combined. And it has been running without a software update for roughly 400 million years. Picture this. A single gram of healthy worm castings, a pinch you could hold between two fingers, contains more living bacteria, fungi, than there are people on Earth. These are not random hitchhikers. Each microbe has a job. Some crack open nitrogen and hand it directly to a root hair the moment that root sends out a chemical request. Others wrap themselves around root tips in a fungal sheath, so tight it essentially extends the root system by hundreds of feet in every direction, trading phosphorus for sugar, like a silent underground barter economy. When a plant, fed by synthetic fertilizer, gets hungry, it gets a spike, a chemical hit, and then the soil goes quiet again. The plant waits, it starves between doses, it never learns to feed itself because the biology that was supposed to teach it got sterilized out of the equation 2 fertilizer applications ago. Worm castings operate on a completely different frequency. The nutrients inside are locked in a slow-release biological matrix. They do not dump into the soil all at once. They become available only when the plant asks for them, molecule by molecule, on the plant's schedule, not yours. But nutrition is honestly the least interesting part. Castings carry naturally occurring auxins and cytokinins, growth hormones, that tell a plant to push deeper roots, and Toughen up against drought and disease. They carry humic acids that physically restructure dirt, loosening compacted clay so it can breathe, binding sandy soil so it can actually hold a drink of water. A study published in Applied Soil Ecology found that even modest amounts of castings mixed into growing media outperformed synthetic fertilizer in both germination speed and early growth. Not because of higher nutrient concentration, but because the microbiome inside the castings was literally talking to the roots, coordinating uptake and suppressing pathogens in a language that predates agriculture itself. This is the operating system your soil was born with, and every bag of synthetic fertilizer you ever bought was essentially a patch that overrode it. Now imagine all of that happening continuously, for free, deposited exactly where your roots are hungriest, without you hauling a single bag or measuring a single scoop. That is what a buried pipe full of kitchen scraps, a population of earthworms does. The factory already exists beneath your feet. 23 days from now, you pull a carrot from the soil, 6.5 inches away from that pipe, and the root comes out, trailing crumbs of earth so dark it looks like wet coffee. Your tomato plant on that side of the bed is a full hand taller than its twin on the far edge. You did not spray anything, you did not side dress, you did not even think about that bed for most of the week. And yet, something down there shifted, visibly and measurably, in a way that makes you feel like you are getting away with something. That result traces back to one motion you barely remember making: popping the lid off that pipe and dropping in a handful of banana peels and some wilted lettuce on your way to the car. Wednesday morning, that is the entire labor input. A 6-second wrist flick with whatever was already sitting in your kitchen scrap bowl. No turning, no layering, no carbon to nitrogen math. The decomposition starts on contact with the moisture. Already trapped inside the chamber, microbial signals leak into the surrounding soil, and every worm within range begins migrating toward the source. They eat, they move outward through your root zones. They leave behind castings so nutrient-dense that commercial bags of the same stuff sell for more per pound than most organic fertilizers on the shelf, and you produced it. While locking your front door, the feeding rule is almost insultingly simple. Raw plant-based scraps go in: apple cores, coffee grounds, eggshells crushed in your fist, and a torn strip of cardboard from the cereal box to soak up extra moisture. That is the entire ingredient list. No meat, no dairy, no oily leftovers. Those rot through a bacterial pathway that actually repels the worms you spent weeks recruiting. Citrus in large doses throws off the acid balance. Anything sprayed with pesticides poisons the workforce. But if you keep it clean and raw, the chamber self-regulates. Like a slow heartbeat underground. I've documented in my case logs that you do not need to feed it every day. Every 3 to 4 days keeps the colony active. But if you forget for a week, if you go on vacation, or if life just happens, the system does not crash. Worms drift outward during the quiet stretch. Keep depositing castings through your bed and circle back the moment fresh material appears. The pipe is not a machine with a maintenance schedule. It is a permanent invitation embedded in the ground, and the guests come and go on their own terms. The only way to actually sabotage this is by trying too hard. Stuff the pipe full every single day, pack it down, treat it like a trash can instead of a feeding station. You will know immediately. Pop that lid, and instead of the damp forest floor smell of healthy decomposition, you get hit with something sharp and sour, a smell that tells you the microbial crew is drowning in more material than they can process. The fix is not a product, it is the opposite of effort. You slow down, toss in a handful of dry cardboard or shredded leaves to pull moisture out, then walk away. Let the biology catch up. Less input, faster recovery. The system literally rewards you for doing less. And that is the lever nobody selling you bags of amendment wants you to understand. The most productive thing you can do for this bed is resist the urge to optimize it. Stop measuring, stop scheduling, stop improving. Just drop scraps in a pipe a few times a week. Let a million organisms do the job they have been doing for 400 million years without a single bag from the garden center. I am genuinely curious about your own kitchen waste patterns. What is the one kitchen scrap you produce the most of? that you have been throwing straight into the trash. Somewhere right now, someone is standing in a grocery aisle, watching the price of a single bell pepper climb past $3.3. They are doing the only thing they know how to do. They are paying it. They will pay it next week too, and the week after that, because they believe deeply and without question. That food is something you receive from a system, not something you command on your own terms. You are no longer that person. Think about what happens when the next disruption hits. Could be a drought in California, could be a diesel shortage. That doubles shipping costs overnight, could be another round of panic buying. That empties shelves in 48 hours. You have seen it before. You watched people fight over canned goods with a look in their eyes that said they had no backup plan, no second option, no sovereignty over the most basic human need. Now picture yourself in that same moment. You walk to your backyard. You pull kale from soil, so alive it crumbles dark. Wet between your fingers, you pop the lid off. That white PVC pipe and the worms are still working, still converting yesterday's coffee grounds and potato peels into black gold, still feeding your tomatoes from below while the world above scrambles for scraps. Your neighbor is refreshing a delivery app, hoping something comes back in stock. You are eating. That contrast is not hypothetical. It is the difference between someone who understood what 500,000 years of biology was offering for free and someone who kept buying the bag because the bag had a nice label. The fertilizer industry does not lose sleep over people who plant a few herbs in a window box. They lose sleep over people like you, people who now understand that the most powerful growing system on the planet costs nothing, runs itself, and makes their entire product line irrelevant. Every pipe you bury, every handful of scraps you drop into darkness instead of a trash can is a vote. Not a political one, a biological one. In my records, the moment of realization is the most critical shift. I want to know what was the first moment, maybe in this video, maybe years ago, when you realized the system was not feeding you, it was billing you. Drop that in the comments.